that simultaneous Spanish language interpretation is available. I would ask the interpreter to please go over the accessibility features in Spanish at this. Thank you, Madam Interpreter. I'd like to now call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Before I call the roll, I would like to note that all board members are participating via teleconference. As such, all votes will be taken by roll call vote. With that, Member Birkbeck Garcia.
Here.
Member Bush.
Here.
Member Elo Rivera.
Present.
Member Fletcher.
Fletcher here.
Member Gomez.
Here.
Member Martinez.
Here.
Member Medina.
Present.
Member Shu.
Here.
Member Whitburn.
Here.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Sanchez here.
Chair Vargas.
Vargas present.
Thank you.
Thank you. A quick reminder to board members to please turn your cameras on and everyone to mute your microphone if you are not speaking. If you would like to comment, please raise your hand. We will now move on to public communications. This is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to the board on any subject matter within the board's jurisdiction, but not an item on the agenda. Madam Clerk, are there any members of the public that wish to speak or address the board under this item?
Thank you, Vice Chair Sanchez. We have one request to speak under non-agenda public comment. I would ask that member of the public to please unmute themselves by pressing *6 on their phone. You will be asked to state your name for the audio record, and you will have 3 minutes to address the board. Please self-regulate your time. I ask that you conclude your comments when your time has ended. I would also ask that you mute your live stream before you begin speaking. Our public caller is 0845. You may begin and state your name for the record. Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Hi, my name is Lydia Payacer, and I'm the environmental manager at BAE Systems San Diego Ship Repair. And I want to thank you guys for the opportunity to provide a comment in today's meeting. As a tenant of the Portside community, we wanted to ensure the governing board understands that BAE Systems has actively been committed to reducing our emissions in Barrio Logan for decades. And today, I'm not sure if you guys have this slide available. I don't see it up there. I was hoping for a visual, so if you do have it, go ahead and pull that up. But I wanted to share some exciting news with the governing board about and the local community members in attendance that we have a all-new zero-emission electric semi-truck. The semi-truck is a converted Peterbilt 579 semi-tractor that was developed by a local company called TransPower, which was recently acquired by Meritor. This zero-emission semi-truck was not only funded by the California Air Resource Board and the South Coast Air Quality Management District, San Diego Gas and Electric, and the APCD. But from start to finish, it was also planned, engineered, and built locally by San Diegans, which I think is really a cool story to tell. This is our shipyard's second all-electric semi-truck. And although this truck has a much higher towing capacity, topping out at 80,000 pounds, It's still not built, unfortunately, to conduct all the work that we need to accomplish in our yard with a truck of that size. We're currently using this new truck to transport materials and equipment to and from our local warehouse in Chula Vista every day. But we found that due to the length of the truck and where the batteries are located, it unfortunately cannot be used to move the propeller shafts on and off the dry dock for repair, which was one of the other main reasons we were really hoping to use this unit. But the good thing is that by testing the new technology, we're able to ensure that the electric trucks that come in the future will meet our transportation needs. And participating in these testing opportunities gives us a great opportunity to help develop the new technology and really understand where it's going. Currently, long distance hauling is really not an option, but it has worked really well for that local drayage type work. And so I wanted to share it with you guys, know that it exists. We certainly have a long way to go with the technology. I will say our first one broke down a lot and often would strand us out on the streets, but the second one, we've only had it since February. It's had a few glitches here and there, and we've only had it break down one time. But otherwise, it's been an excellent truck, and we charge it in our yard every day, and it's ready to go. So just wanted to share it with you so that everyone in the community could see it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. That concludes public comment under non-agenda public communication.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're now on item number C, approval of the June 4th, 2021 minutes. Is there a motion for approval?
So move, Gomez.
Motion by Member Gomez, second by
Whitburn.
Member Whitburn. Madam Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Thank you. Member Birkbeck Garcia,
Aye.
Member Bush, Member Elo Rivera,
Yes.
Member Fletcher,
Fletcher, aye.
Member Gomez,
Yes.
Member Martinez,
Yes.
Member Medina,
Present.
Member Shu,
Aye.
Member Whitburn,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sanchez,
Sanchez, aye.
Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. That motion passes with those board members being present and voting aye.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're now on item number D, which is the interim APC report. We'll have the interim APC report by Mr. Robert Ryder. Mr. Ryder, would you please begin?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Vice Chair Sanchez and board members. For today's report, I have a couple of items. First, with the recent easing of the COVID restrictions, I'm pleased to announce that the APCD will be once again opening its doors and welcoming our staff and customers back to the building for the first time in 15 months. Effective this Friday, well, not this Friday, July 2nd, Friday, July 2nd. We're currently working on all of our plans to prepare for that July 2nd opening. It's an important milestone, and on behalf of all the district staff, I want to thank the board and the public for your patience and understanding as we've navigated through the pandemic. And I really want to thank district staff for rising to the challenge, no matter how daunting, and for the selflessness and dedication that I saw them exhibit in continuing to serve our communities during the pandemic, excuse me. So July 2nd will be open for business again. Of course, we've been open virtually throughout, and that's what I'm referring to, and thanking staff for rising to the challenge and providing seamless service during this very difficult time. Secondly, I wanted to announce that CARB has announced it will host a virtual public workshop to discuss the status of its review of the APCD's air quality program. So that virtual public workshop will be held on June 30th at 4 p.m. And CARB plans to publish a status report in advance of the June 30 workshop. And the APCD will help with outreach next week and help spread the word and to ensure that the public is invited to participate and knows that we want their input. So again, that's June 30th at 4 p.m. and we'll conduct some public outreach next week on that item. So those are the two updates for today. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder. Yes, thank you, staff, for working through a very, very difficult time. Only the second time in our history that we have in this country's history that we have a pandemic. So thank you so much. Are there any questions for Mr. Ryder on his reports from board members?
Vice Chair Vargas, I don't have so much of a question, but I would like to add an informational item to the agenda on the anniversary of the ship fire. And if it's acceptable, this might be a good time to do that, following up on interim writer's report. But if we need a different time on today's agenda, I'm fine with that too.
Madam Clerk, with respect to adding items to a future, is it to this agenda? My apologies.
It would actually just be to inform staff that it's something that you would like to see come on a subsequent agenda.
Correct.
Okay. So if have you heard that, Mr. Ryder? So we can.
I have.
That. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Board Member Medina and Vice Chair Vargas. We will certainly bring that back to the board next month. July 12th is, if I recall, was that fateful day, unfortunately, where the Navy ship caught fire. Since then, we've been working closely with CARB to assess our air monitoring response to that unfortunate incident and to identify opportunities to improve in the event of a future incident. And so the public certainly deserves that, and we're taking every opportunity to identify gaps and to address those gaps. Happy to report next month on a status of those activities. Thank you very much.
Sure, and I would like to just add a couple items of what I would expect to see in the report, and maybe other board members will have some as well. But I think it's important to know that maybe those of you who've been in San Diego for a while, other than that week in May of 2014 when we had 20 wildfires raging in San Diego, I don't think we've had an incident with this kind of degraded air quality that compares to that. And the big difference, though, is what burned. And in the case of the ship fire, we had basically the structure, the metal structure, melting and vaporizing toxic metals into the air. We had materials in there from batteries to electronics to plastic cabling to rubber tires, also producing toxic organic chemicals. And you know, a lot of these people were very concerned about it. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, smell the noxious odors and the throat irritation, eye irritation. I talked to people all the way from Chula Vista to La Jolla and Rancho Peñasquitos, and everybody smelled it. So it was an area emergency. And unfortunately, while I know that our air district staff were very busy at the time, there was no public comment on us. And so that allowed other uninformed sources to give false and misleading information about it, such as, oh, this is not a health hazard, or these fumes are not toxic. And unfortunately, at the same time, the communities in Portside, Barrio Logan, National City, and adjacent areas were experiencing a lot of health effects, from headaches to sore throats to and concerns over children and the elderly. And there was no information that was provided to them. So it fell to community groups like the Environmental Health Coalition to reach out and coordinate with the City and National City, with the San Diego City Council President's Office, with the Board of Supervisors in the Port District to provide relief to the communities. And I think we should commend all of these agencies for their effort. But as a board, I think that we cannot pass this one-year anniversary without a public statement. I know the report that EHC requested from CARB is still in the works, and they're planning to have a public a workshop. But I think it's our priority, not CARB's. We need to be the ones that make a statement and ask the staff to give us an update, maybe not the entire report, but to at least update the community and ourselves as to what's going on. And because the question really is, if a similar emergency were to happen today, how prepared are we? I think
Right.
people want to know that. So
Thank you, Board Medina. We will definitely have that on the next meeting agenda. So
thank you very much.
anyone else have a question for Mr. Ryder? Seeing no other hands raised, we'll just go ahead and move on to our next agenda item, which is E, agenda items. Under agenda items, item number 1, which is public hearing, interim air pollution control officer's proposed budget for the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District for fiscal year 2021 to 2022. Mr. Let's see.
I'll take it over from here.
Okay. Thank
Actually,
you.
before you do, I'd like to real quickly ask those members of the public that have requested to speak on this item to please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided to you. You will have an opportunity to address the board after the staff presentation.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and thank you, Vice Chair and board members. So this is the district's second public hearing on its proposed budget for next fiscal year. The proposed budget is balanced and includes $84 million and 164 staff positions to advance the district's important mission of improving air quality to protect public health and the environment. The proposed budget was posted on the district's website on May 5th, and notice of its availability and request for public comments was mailed directly to every permit holder and emailed to 15,000 stakeholders via the district's email subscription service. Members of the public were notified in English and Spanish via the district's social media accounts and our website, where stakeholders were invited to submit written comments online or by email, and of course to provide testimony during the budget hearings. The purpose of today's hearing is twofold. First, to continue the opportunity for the public to provide testimony, and then secondly, for the board to consider budget adoption. However, as previously discussed during our first budget hearing 2 weeks ago, we're proposing a two-phased approach to budget development in this very first year of the agency. We will return to the board this fall with proposed budget adjustments that align with the new board's priorities and other resource needs that we're assessing now, and to reflect any fee increases that will be considered for adoption by the board this summer. With that, I'll turn the floor over to John Jayasinghe, the district's Chief of Support Services, who will provide a very quick refresher of the proposed budget before we open the floor to public testimony and the board's deliberation. Thank you. John, take it away.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Vice Chair Sanchez and board members. Today's hearing is the second public hearing for the budget adoption. The first hearing, held on June 4th, was exclusively for the purpose of reviewing the proposed budget and providing the public with the opportunity to comment. The public may testify during this hearing and submit comments online at the district's website or by email. In this presentation, I will provide an overview of the budget highlights, a brief review for the scheduled fall budget adjustments hearing, and finally the requested actions, which include two new committed accounts, as previously discussed, and the adoption of the budget resolution. Please note that none of the information for the proposed revenues and expenditures that was presented during the first hearing has changed. The budget details the spending plan for the district under the control of the governing board. As previously presented, the district's total revenues and expenditures for next fiscal year are estimated to be $84 million, reflecting a balanced budget. Budget details are listed on page 8 within the budget document posted on the website, and page 9 and page 10 detail the changes from the previous adopted budget to this recommended budget. Also, the budget document includes program descriptions and budget detail by line item. In this section, we will take another look at the fund balance summary for the district's general fund, including the two new requested reserve accounts and the incentive fund balances. As you might recall from the first hearing, two new committed fund accounts are requested today to be established and are incorporated in the recommended budget within the operations fund balance. The district management will propose an operating reserve policy to outline the basis for usage of the funds and future contributions to increase the balance for board consideration this fall. The proposed budget retains the existing 164 positions with no additional staffing requested at this time. District management continues to evaluate existing federal and state mandates for potential staffing needs and will return mid-year with any proposed staffing increases as appropriate. Future board initiatives and potential new mandates will also require additional staff mid-year. And finally, as a result of normal staffing turnover, the district is currently in the recruitment or selection process for filling 12 positions, including inspectors, engineers, chemists, and support staff. In this section, we will relook into the timeline for the next 6 months and go over the plan to return to the board in the fall with proposed budget adjustments. As you may recall, in this inaugural year of the newly reformed agency under a new governing board, staff are following this budget and fee adoption timeline that was previously approved by the board. In the fall, staff propose returning to the board with proposed budget adjustments to align with board priorities, other resource needs, and to reflect revenue adjustments resulting from any board adopted amendments to fees. Today's requested actions are to authorize the interim APCO to open and activate a committed fund for operating reserve account. Authorize the interim APCO to open and activate a committed fund for facilities and fleet account, and adopt the resolution to adopt the budget for fiscal year 2021-22. Thank you for the opportunity to present the proposed budget. That completes our presentation, and we are happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you for the presentation, Madam Clerk. Are there any members of the public that wish to provide comments from the board or public testimony on this item?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. We have not received any requests to speak on this item. However, there are some unidentified callers in our queue. I'd like to give them an opportunity at this time to let us know whether or not they wish to speak on this item. If you would like to speak on this item, please press *9 at this time so that we may address you. Seeing no hands raised, there is no public comment on this item.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let's open the floor for board member comments. Do we have any questions or comments from board members?
I have a question.
Member Gomez.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I just had a question. By looking at the resolution, and I'll be happy to make the motion, but it doesn't make any reference to the bringing back or maybe I missed it, bringing back the budget in the fall.
Mr. Ryder?
Yeah, thank you, Board Member Gomez. We certainly will bring it back, and if it's not in there, please feel free to add that at your discretion if you would like. But it is our commitment to return this fall. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure that that gets added. Not so much because I'm trusting that staff will be bringing it back, but I just want to make sure that it's reflected in the resolution, just in case it gets questioned.
Great point.
So I would be happy to make the motion with adding the reference that the budget will be brought back to the board in the fall for readjustments.
Okay, there is a motion on the floor recommending staff for the staff's recommendation to include language that says that the budget will be back to us in the fall. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Member Bush.
Just
Any other comments? Member Bush, did you wish to make some comments?
No, I'm good for now. I'd like to hear from my other colleagues.
Member Shu?
Thank you. I have a question for Mr. Ryder. Last time we discussed a position or at least funding for public relations or public information officer. And I just wanted to be reassured that we have the flexibility using existing positions, FTEs, that you may be able to shift that to create such a position and fund such a position. Or I think it's up to you or your successor to contract out for those services. I feel that that's maybe something that we really want to move towards, particularly as we go to fee recovery systems and changing the fees for permitting and other issues. So if I can get some assurance from that, leave the how and where the budget adjusts to that up to you.
You have our assurance, board member Shu. Thank you. We have over the last week been conferring with the Department of Human Resources at the county, which assists the APCD in filling positions. We're trying to identify which position specifically under the county's classification system fits best for the district's public information officer. So we're making progress in that regard, and it's our intent to, if necessary, reclassify a position, an existing position that's vacant, to a public information officer. So I'll know more within a couple of weeks, and short of that, for sure, we would bring back this fall funding to add a position if we're not successful in transitioning one of our existing positions to a public information officer. So we're on it, and hopefully sooner than later, but worst case, we'll come back this fall with the budget adjustment, but I think we can get it done before then.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Member Shu. I see no other hands. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Member Ella Rivera has his hand raised.
Apologies, I just saw your hand. Member Ella Rivera.
No problem. I also know that that Member Bush had said he wanted to hear folks go first. So if he'd like to go, and then I can follow up behind him.
So I just like the idea of coming back to similar to mid-year budget reports. I just think that's important.
In the fall, yes. Yes, thank you. Member Ella Rivera, did you have any other comments to make at this time?
Thank you, Vice Chair. I just, and this is a bit unorthodox, but I'm wondering if either Chair Vargas or Member Fletcher, with the recent addition of the Office of Environmental Justice of the county, I'm curious to what extent that may, if the vision for that office would, I know there was some conversation about this at the last meeting, to what extent that could overlap with, supplement public information efforts by APCD.
Coordinate, maybe?
Yeah, coordination, any of those things. Just I have some more comments about this as well. I just want to make sure that as we're attempting to grow, that we're doing so in a way that also keeps us lean, and because we have very little room to spare in terms of budget. So yeah, anything that you all can offer, and then I have a few more comments after that.
Let me ask Supervisor Vargas if she's on. She really brought forward that. I fully support it. I think it's a great thing, but I want to let her comment on it first.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate the question, Councilmember Elo, and I be assured that it's one of our priorities. I think maybe one of the things that we can do as we are moving forward is ensure that we have our folks at the county come back and present of the work that we're going to be doing. What I should share with you is that we are in the process of approving our budget so that we can have the resources that we need to be able to fill that position. But we're working really closely with Luge to ensure that we are filling the void that APCD left at the county, and at the same time, going to continue to be good partners. So I think there's a natural, ability to work together because I happen to be the chair of APCD and really helping lead the efforts in the county, particularly on the Office of Environmental Climate Justice. And so we'll absolutely be able to work together.
That's great, and I think that makes it even. Thank you for that, Chair Vargas and Member Fletcher. I think. That makes it make even more sense to kind of take a little more time. We're in this really interesting place as a region where the county is like stepping into multiple voids that I know, despite Member Fletcher's best efforts, the county just simply was not doing in the past. And APCD with our the clear intent of this board to do more. Having a full lay of the land, I think, is important, and so obviously, what results from the county's budget and the changes that they're making, I think, will help give us a better sense of that landscape. So, anyway, I also want to just make sure I express my appreciation to Rob and the team for the putting forward a budget of any sort during such a fluid time. It was fluid for everyone, and it was especially fluid at APCD. And I do hope that as we move forward, we can make an effort to bolster our reserves. I'd said a bit about this at the last meeting. I am very excited about the shared values that I think we have as board members about the vision of APCD being the big and bold and important body that it can be. And I know I've had conversations with a few of you about this, as so many of us are stepping into leadership roles in institutions or in cities or at the county that have been run under, with a conservative mindset that was like literally trying to have government do the least possible. There's so much that needs to be done to lay the proper foundation for us to do this work well. And so I want to make sure that we have our kind of fiscal feet under us so that we can do that work well. It is harder to govern in the way that I think we want to than it was to kind of do the self-fulfilling prophecy of government not doing the job well, which was so often the case in leadership before. So anyway, I won't go on too much further about that. The last thing I will say is that I do really hope that CARB allocates the Clean Cars for All funding. I appreciate Member Fletcher highlighting that, and I hope that our staff can work to help make sure that happens, because we can use all the money that we can get. That concludes my questions and comments, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Member Elo Rivera. Are there any other comments? I see no hands. Sometimes hard to see, but I do not see any more hands. Okay, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Member Burke Garcia.
Aye.
Member Bush.
Yes.
Member Elo Rivera.
Yes.
Member Fletcher.
Fletcher, aye.
Member Gomez.
Yes.
Member Martinez.
Yes.
Member Medina.
Aye.
Member Shu. Member Whitburn.
Yes.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Sanchez, aye.
Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. That motion passes with all board members being present and voting aye.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We're now on item number 2, which is our 2019-2020 Air Toxics Hotspots Program Report for San Diego County. Staff has prepared a presentation for this item. Madam Clerk, can you please provide the public testimony instructions to those members that wish to speak on this item? They will be heard after the staff presentation.
Thank you. I would ask those members of the public that have requested to speak on this item to please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's begin with the staff presentation.
Thank you. I'll turn the floor over to Deputy Director Miney Luther. Miney, take it away.
Good afternoon, board members and members of the public. Thank you, Madam Clerk. My name is Mayani Luther. I'm the Acting Deputy Director at the district, overseeing the compliance and engineering divisions. I would like to also introduce Mohsen Azemi, who is the Chief of the Engineer Division at the district. Under state law, the district is required to prepare an annual report of activities and outcomes related to the California Air Toxic Hotspots Act, which was proposed under Assembly Bill 2588. The 2019 and 2020 Air Toxic Hotspots report for San Diego County was presented to the board at the May 7th board meeting, during which the board requested revisions to the report. We are here this afternoon to present the requested revisions and other enhancements to the 2019 and 2020 Air Toxic Hotspots report for San Diego County. Next slide, please. Before we discuss the report, we would like to provide a very brief background on the Hotspots program. The California Air Resources Board developed the Hotspots program requirements. However, local air districts are required to implement and enforce the requirements of the program. The California Air Resources Board also has an oversight role for the implementation of the requirements of this program. The program has two main focuses. One is to protect the public's right to know about elevated health risks resulting from their air toxic emissions, and two, to require health risk reductions from facilities with elevated health risks. Air toxic emissions are chemicals in the form of gases, liquids, or particles that are emitted into the atmosphere, and people exposed to them might cause adverse health effects. Adverse health effects can range from minor eye or throat irritation or headaches to more serious conditions such as cancer, birth defects, or damage to organs. The nature and severity of the health effects vary by type and quantity of pollutants, the duration of exposure, and the sensitivity of the individual. Next slide, please. Since one of the main focuses of the Hotspots program is to protect the public's right to know about elevated health risks, publishing an informative report and sharing it with the public is essential to meet the requirements of this program. On April 1st, 2021, the district released a draft report for public review. Then on April 22nd, 2021, the district held a virtual public meeting to discuss the draft report, answer questions, and receive public input. And on May 7th, this board had a public hearing to discuss a draft of this report. District staff was directed to revise the report to describe in more details how the district has implemented the requirements of this program. Next slide, please. As directed by this board, the district made several revisions to the report to clearly inform the public of activities conducted under this program in 2019 and 2020. This slide summarizes the changes made to this report. The district clearly defined all technical terms in the report, added diagrams and tables to explain in more detail the various timelines to implement the requirements of this program, revised and added tables to provide more specifics on the status of the health risk assessments and implementation of public notification and risk reduction requirements, included a list of notice of violation issued for not complying with the requirements of this program. It also included the status of these notice of violation and a detailed description of our enforcement program. We also included maps to clearly display the locations of facilities that are required to conduct health risk assessments, facilities with approved health risk assessments, and facilities subject to public notification risk reduction requirements. Next slide, please. In addition to the changes discussed, the report also includes a link to an interactive map that was developed and posted on the district's website. The map provides detailed information for facilities that need to conduct health risk assessments or are subject to public notification and risk reduction requirements. Next slide, please. The public can zoom in to see what's going on in their communities and click on various icons to obtain more details on various facilities. Each icon has information such as addresses, status of health risk assessments, calculated health risks, whether the facility is subject to public notification, risk reduction requirements, and other information. Next slide, please. Today's recommendation is to authorize the interim air pollution control officer to distribute the revised 2019 and 2020 air toxic hotspots report for San Diego County. If the board approves the distribution of this report, state law requires the district to send this report to County Board of Supervisors and City Council offices, as well as to the local health officers. Additionally, the district is planning to share this report with stakeholders and members of the public as part of its outreach efforts. Thank you very much.
Is that the end of the presentation?
This concludes my presentation, Vice Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. Madam Clerk, are there any members of the public that wish to make some comments?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. We have one caller on the line that wishes to address the board on this item. I would ask that they press *6 at this time to unmute their phone. When you begin, please state your name for the record. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. And I would remind you to please mute your live stream before speaking. Our first caller is, or our only caller, I'm sorry, is Diane Takborian. I don't have her number, so her name is actually popping up. I just want to note that for the record. Diane, you can unmute yourself and by pressing *6 and go ahead and begin.
Ms. Tavorkian, you are muted. Perhaps you need to unmute yourself. We did receive a letter from Ms. Tavorkian on this item.
We can try again later. We'll circle back to her if the board would like
Okay.
to begin their comments.
Okay, thank
There
you.
we go. Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
I apologize. I think I need to leave the Zoom on video.
Did she disappear?
It looks like she left the video line. I believe she's going to attempt to call in at this time.
Okay. We can begin with board member comments if we don't hear from her within the next few seconds. Okay, well, we'll circle back. Let's open the floor for board member comments. Do we have any questions or comments from board members? See any hands up here? Member Gomez.
Trying to see if other members were going to raise their hands. I'll go ahead and start, I guess. Thank you, Vice Chair. So I actually want to start by acknowledging staff. I know that this item was brought to us earlier and there was direction that was given. And I have to say that the report is very reflective of what we were hoping to see. There's still a little bit of more work to do, but I think we're getting better in really creating a report that can be very technical to have it be a little bit more friendly for folks to understand what this very heavy data can mean in their lives. I think we can improve on that, but hopefully next round we can do a bit better. I really truly love the mapping. I think it's very important that this technical data, I feel like can be represented by utilizing the tools of GIS and mapping, and I think we're striving to do that. We should definitely ensure that we do as much as we can with this data to have it be reflected on that. I still do believe that the cumulative side of the data is very critical. I know we're striving, but it's still not quite there of what it means to a regular resident to have these many facilities. What does it mean to them in their daily life? And I think we can depict that a bit better. And I think hopefully Diane will jump on the line, but I think we did receive a letter from EHC. They're acknowledging the work that staff is doing, but also are asking to do a bit more in the next round of this report by improving our accessibility to the public, and I agree with that. Also, just demonstrating the ability to do layer mapping. They point to the CalEnviro screen tool for an example, and I also agree with that. Just because it really gives a real picture to a resident if they care about the quality of an environment that they're living in. So I think next round we could do a bit more on that. And then just overall the facility history, I think that data needs to be reflected as well and ensure that there is that history that is carried on as we move forward. So just want to really say thank you to staff for being responsive and for having being more proactive and engaging the public as well. And just lastly, in your presentation, Mahini, you mentioned that this is going to be issued to council members from other cities, to the county board. Will there be a presentation following? I'm really want to stress the engagement and being a little bit more proactive, just because the more we talk about, the more we're relaying this information to others. And I just don't want the report to go into the ether and hope that folks are going to pick it up. So I think if we can request these cities to make a proactive presentation, I think would be very useful to let them know.
Thank you, Member Gomez. I understand that Ms. Tvorkian is back online, and her comments may be something that we all want to add to. So why don't we go ahead, Madam Clerk, and ask Ms. Tvorkian to speak at this time?
Thank you. Ms. Dvorkian, I would ask that you go ahead and unmute yourself at this time and you can begin speaking. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Thank you. Let me check to see if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yes, great. Sorry about that. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak on this. We've submitted a letter which Member Gomez has referenced, so I hope you all had an opportunity to take a look at that. I too would like to start by again commending the APCD staff on really the enormous amount of work they've done, not just for this report, but over the last 18 months. The program had really been largely disregarded in previous years with little new work occurring. But the original report and now this revision really provides significantly more information and provides much more detail than ever before. So we are very appreciative of that. And while the original report was substantially better, as we had said from previous year's reports, we felt that it should and could be improved and appreciated your board's decision to direct staff to revise the report and bring it back. We feel that the revised report takes really significant steps towards important aspects of the program that your board pointed out and that staff responded to. I think the purpose and direction of the program and useful information for community residents, detailed explanation for the very first time of the timeline and flow of the program. And lastly, I think the staff took an important step and really quite rapidly towards visualization with the publication of an interactive map of air toxic facilities. And again, that was never done before. So while we have a number of firsts, I think we're all really anxious to catch up in a lot of ways and really make the information available to community residents in a very publicly accessible way, as Member Gomez has already stated. So we think that we really have to improve the accessibility data with more visualization tools. We'd really like to see a robust discussion of cumulative health risks from multiple facilities. As you saw, I'm sure, from the map that Mayani provided, there's multiple facilities in impacted areas. And so we need to know more about what that interaction results in. And I think the health risk discussion should be incorporated into the community information workshops that we're requesting, so that that information, that people have the opportunity to ask questions about it. And I'd also ask that you consider whether APCD itself should issue the disclosure statements to the public rather than or in addition to the facility notices in order to increase public accessibility in a more popular education manner. So those are our suggestions at this point. Thank you again for your attention to improving the program that we really are confident will improve public health and advance environmental justice. And we strongly recommend that you approve the report at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dvorkian. I understand there were another of the public comments, so we can resume our comments by board members. And then Member Shu, you're up next.
Thank you. I'd like to ditto the comments that have already been made about staff adjusting and making this report much more useful. I just want to put in my 2 cents. I'm more of a visual learner than someone who reads lots of material. I'm not a great reader. So when I see a chart or a map, it's much more effective for me to understand what's going on. And I think the comment we just heard about cumulative impacts is very important. Cumulative not only by location, but also by time. And I think that's where the history becomes very much important. If we have a history of what is what the communities are being subjected to. And cumulative by location, I think, is really important. And as we see overlapping sources of pollution in particular communities, that should lend ourselves to really thinking what we should do within those communities, whether to reduce the pollutants, the permits, or to simply not issue any additional permits in that particular neighborhood. These are things that are so important when we see maps and see the cumulative impacts. So I really would like to thank for moving in this direction so that we can see and understand that. So I hope this becomes a good tool for us to move forward and be more effective in dealing with improving the health of these communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Shu. Member Medina?
Thank you, Vice Chair. I wanted to commend the district and their map. I spent some time on it yesterday. It was very good information, and so it adds tremendous amount of accessibility to the report. I do have a question. I didn't find on that page, and I know we talked about this before, a downloadable table of the emissions from the facilities that could then be searched and selected. I know that was a request that was made before. So question to mine is that available, or do people need to request it from the district, or can it be just downloaded?
Thank you, Board Member Medina. Yes, so the table is available as part of the report, but we can certainly upload, the spreadsheet posted on our website. It's constantly changing, but we do want to also expand the functionality of that map to be, similar to what OEHA provides for the Cow Enviro Screen scores, where, you can navigate through the map and download the information. So we are certainly, that's where we want it to be, but we will upload the spreadsheet to our website.
Right, thank you. And just my last comment is, I know that AB 2588 have a very specific purpose, and maybe there are limitations in that respect, but I think it might be a good idea for the map to include where air monitoring stations are located and what kind of data is available from those that could then inform the public as to if there's a particular facility that they know has a particular contaminant, and if that happens to be also measured by one of the stations. I think it could add layers of information that might be helpful. So I'll just throw that out as a suggestion. Thank you. I'm done with my.
Thank you, Member Medina. I see no other hands.
Madam Vice Chair, I'll be happy.
Member Gomez.
I was just gonna say, I'll be happy to make the motion.
I have comments.
I believe Chair Vargas has comments.
Yes, I do. I mean, yes, she does. Chair Vargas? Actually, I actually have her comments. I don't know if she wanted me to go ahead.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I was just trying to get onto the website because I'm physically somewhere where I'm supposed to be. I just wanted to say that this report is extremely important, and I really appreciate all of everyone's comments, particularly on the transparency of the district and public discussions on public health items. And so I am excited about the work moving forward, and we've annotated all the recommendations that folks have made, but I just wanted to make sure that I also say, make sure that I was highlighting that this is absolutely important for us as well. So thank you everyone. And you can go ahead and finish this one, Vice Chair, and then you can turn it over.
Okay, so thank you so much for your comments, Madam Chair. And I do also appreciate having all the information for frontline EJ communities. So is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
I'll be happy to make the motion.
Okay, there's a motion by Member Gomez, second by Member Shu. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you. Member Burke Garcia?
Aye.
Member Bush?
Yes.
Member Elo Rivera?
Yes.
Member Fletcher?
Fletcher, aye.
Member Gomez?
Yes.
Member Martinez?
Yes.
Member Medina?
Aye.
Member Shu?
Aye.
Member Whitburn?
Yes.
Vice Chair Sanchez?
Sanchez, yes.
Chair Vargas?
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. That motion passes with all board members being present and voting aye.
Thank you, APCD staff, for the work to get this report ready and for incorporating the board recommendations. We're now on item 3, and Madam Chair, if you'd like to take over at this time.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So item number 3 is legal authorities and responsibilities of the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District Governing Board hearing. This is our presentation from from our folks, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our APCD Senior Deputy County Counsel, Paula Forbes, who has prepared a presentation. And thank you, Vice Chair Sanchez, for helping me out today. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
Good afternoon, Chair Vargas and board members.
Hi, Paula. I'm
Yes.
sorry. Before you begin, I just want to ask those members of the public that have requested to speak on this item to please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided. Thank you.
So I have a quick presentation for you this afternoon, and it's now loading. Here we go. I'm Paula Forbes, Senior Deputy County Counsel for the Air Pollution Control District. And I was asked to give you a quick primer on the legal structure of the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District, including the legal authorities and responsibilities of the governing board and hearing board and the air pollution control officer. Today's presentation is a very general overview of these different roles, which are described in state law. Some of this information was provided to you in the introductory packets and presentation you were provided after being appointed to the board. But we thought that with the upcoming appointments for both the air pollution control officer and several hearing board members in the next few months, that now would be a good time to revisit this information. Next slide, please. As a review, the district is part of a coordinated three-tiered approach to regulating air pollution in accordance with the federal and state Clean Air Acts. The US EPA primarily regulates emissions from interstate traveling sources, such as planes, trains, and ships. The EPA also regulates large stationary sources like large power plants and factories, for which EPA delegates permitting authority to the local air districts. The California Air Resources Board, or CARB, regulates emissions from in-state mobile sources like on-road and off-road sources. CARB also regulates stationary or portable sources of air toxic emissions, for which CARB delegates the enforcement to the local air districts. CARB also regulates certain area-wide sources, such as consumer products and other individually small sources that are prevalent throughout the state. And CARB also implements a statewide greenhouse gas reduction program. At the local level, the district regulates emissions from stationary sources throughout the region, such as factories, power plants, gas stations, landfills, and some area-wide sources such as paints and coatings. Next slide, please. Next, I'd like to address the big picture of how local air districts are recognized in state and federal law. Local air districts are established in state law, the California Health and Safety Code. The basic legal definition is seen here at the first dot point, which basically means that the district is a local agency created by the state. Our jurisdictional mandate in state law is for the control of air pollution from all sources other than vehicular sources. Because of this authority under state law, local air districts also obtain authority and responsibilities under federal law, the Clean Air Act. Under the Federal Clean Air Act, the district is considered a local air pollution control agency, since we're charged in state law with enforcing laws related to the prevention and control of air pollution. We are thus given additional duties and powers under federal law, both independently and through CARB. Next slide, please. As we previously discussed, California is divided into 35 independent air pollution control districts. Each has similar authority and primary responsibility for regulating air pollution from stationary sources in their respective region. However, there are several different types of legal structures for the local air districts. San Diego is a county district and has jurisdictional boundaries that are contiguous with the County of San Diego. Originally, every county had an air district that aligned with its county boundaries. Over time, state law allowed for counties to join together to create unified districts and created some multi-jurisdictional districts by statute. San Diego is one of the 5 largest air districts, along with the South Coast, San Joaquin Valley, Bay Area, and Sacramento air districts. Next slide, please. In very general terms, air districts are tasked with adopting and enforcing rules that are needed to achieve state and federal ambient air quality standards. Air districts do not have general police powers like cities and counties, but they are authorized to act as necessary and proper to fulfill their mandates. Thus, their authority is limited to the control of air pollution from non-vehicular sources or other state or federal mandated programs. For example, the Air Toxics Hotspots program, which was just discussed, is one of these specific mandates in state law that's in addition to the district's general authority. Next slide, please. The Health and Safety Code gives us very broad authorities to be able to accomplish our responsibilities. These include the power to contract, the power to purchase and hold property, and the power to sue and be sued. Next slide, please. These powers would be meaningless without the ability to raise revenue. Your board has discussed the budget and recent cost study at length, so I won't go into detail here, but listed here are the various funding sources that are available to air districts to help them accomplish their purposes. Next slide, please. In general, local air districts have 3 levels of government. The governing board performs the legislative function. The Air Pollution Control Officer, or APCO, performs the executive function, and the hearing board performs the judicial function. All of these functions are established and described in state law. There are a couple of exceptions to these broad functions, which I'll note as we go through them. Next slide, please. You, the governing board, are the legislative body for the district. You adopt the rules and regulations and provide the policy direction for the district. You also oversee the operations and adopt the district's budget, as well as appoint the Air Pollution Control Officer and the hearing board members. You also determine the number of district employees and set their compensation. It's important to note that because district employees are county employees, the compensation structure is tied to that for county employees. Your board also has a limited judicial function, the power to issue an abatement order if, after a notice and hearing, your board finds that any person is in violation of any rule or regulation within the district's enforcement authority. Next slide, please. The Air Pollution Control Officer performs the executive function of the district. The APCO appoints district staff within the confines of the adopted budget and is responsible for the day-to-day operations of the district. The APCO is also responsible in state law for enforcing the applicable provisions of state and federal law as well as district rules. The APCO issues permits and notices of violation for violations of the applicable air quality laws. The APCO can also issue an interim abatement order pending a full hearing on an abatement order for violations which would cause an imminent or substantial endangerment to the public health or the environment. Next slide, please. The County Board of Supervisors, sitting as the APCD governing board, previously delegated authority to the APCO on several issues. These delegations remain in effect until they are revisited or changed by your board. The most notable of them are listed here. The first involves the APCO ability to seek litigation when an NOV has not been resolved by staff and enforcement must be pursued in court. The board has delegated the APCO the authority to request county council file litigation to enforce the notice of violation, and county council has been delegated authority to initiate that litigation at the APCO's request. The APCO has also been delegated the authority to apply for and accept state and federal grant funding and to implement several ongoing grant programs in accordance with state program requirements. And finally, the APCO has been delegated authority to enter into site lease agreements for monitoring stations, which involve annual lease fees of less than $7,500. Next slide, please. The hearing board performs the judicial functions of the district. The board is a 5-member quasi-judicial body that is appointed by the governing board to perform specified functions under state law. The members are appointed by the governing board for a fixed term. APCD staff will be returning to your board tentatively in July for several hearing board appointments. The hearing board holds public hearings to consider appeals of permit actions, either from the permittee or from a member of the public that has participated in the permit process. It also considers variance requests from facilities. A variance is basically a waiver from a district rule or requirement that can be granted when a facility can't meet the requirement due to circumstances beyond its control. The hearing board can also issue abatement orders to order a facility to comply with a rule or regulation. And under state law, the hearing board has a different county council to advise them. Next slide, please. There are checks and balances built into the state and federal oversight of the district, as well as the legal structure of the district itself. Both CARB and EPA can step in if the district does not fulfill its legal mandates, and the courts can review legal challenges to the district actions. The district structure also provides internal checks and balances due to the division of functions between the governing board, air pollution control officer, and the hearing board. The governing board adopts the rules, the air pollution control officer issues permits and enforces the rules, and the hearing board hears permit appeals and considers whether to grant waivers from those rules. Then your board appoints the air pollution control officer and the hearing board members and controls the budget. Next slide, please. These three entities, the governing board, air pollution control officer, and hearing board, perform the high-level functions of the district. Together with APCD staff and our stakeholders, they work together toward fulfilling the district's mission of achieving clean air for all. Next slide, please. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for the opportunity to present this overview. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much for that. Madam Clerk, can you provide any, are there any members of the public that wish to comment on this item?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have received no request to speak on this item.
All right. Any of the members have any questions or comments on this item? I just want to say thank you for the great presentation. It's very thorough. Mr. Medina, and then Madam Vice Chair.
Okay. Vice Chair was first, but
I'm sorry, Madam Vice Chair, you want to go first? It's really hard. I can't see who goes first, just so you know.
Thank you. And of course, my hand is brown, so it blends in into the, yeah. So thank you. Just a quick question. If the for the hearing officers, if there is an appeal, who hears that appeal? Would that be staff?
You mean from the hearing board, or?
Yeah. Yes,
it would go to Superior Court after that.
Okay.
So if someone wants to appeal the determination of the hearing board, they file in Superior Court.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Member Medina?
Vice Chair asked my question, so.
There you go. Member Consuelo?
Thank you. Thank you for, I really appreciate this informational item because as we were recruiting, and I believe we're still recruiting for the hearing board, and I heard the deadline was extended. So I wanted to get a status update on where we are, and just again to let the public know about this opportunity and the deadline. And then I'm wondering if we're contacting past applicants who apply to be on this board, that fill some of those, that have some of those technical expertise backgrounds that may want to apply for the hearing board since they weren't appointed to the governing board.
Oh, thank you, Board Member Martinez. We've received probably nearly a dozen applications from the public and stakeholders who are interested in serving on the hearing board. And you're right, we did extend the application period specifically because we hadn't yet received applications for the attorney member of the hearing board, whose the incumbent's term is also retiring. And so we have since received an application, I'm pleased to say. So we do expect coming back to the board next hearing for your consideration of appointment to the hearing board. But we still need to work on the agenda with the chair, of course, but we're tentatively planning for next month. I forget, I don't know if I've answered your question, excuse me.
That's okay. So if you could just, we're still, so technically the application period is still open, and if so, through how long, or has that period closed?
Team, if there's someone online that could help me with that detail, and if we don't know, we'll get back to you during this hearing with
Hi, Rob. It's open through July 6th, 2021, and we'll close at 5 p.m. that day.
Thank you so much. And we did do we've been doing outreach. We did a little flurry of it again last week, and we'll continue that. Thank you.
Thank you. And then just my other question was if we have shared the information with the applicants from
such a great
pool
idea
of previous applicants for the board that might be interested in this opportunity.
Thank you, board member. If we haven't, we will. That's a great idea. I do not know, but we'll find out and we'll do that right away. Thank you.
Through the chair, yes, we have shared that information.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
All right. Seeing no other member comments. We're going to go ahead and move over to the next item. Item number 4, legal authorities and responsibilities of the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District. This is our final item for consideration. We're going to go ahead and go into closed session, but before and any reportable matters that we will be reported out of the conclusion of this public meeting will come back and share. But let me ask if there's any public comment before recessing into closed session.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have received no request to speak on this item. However, we do have one individual that is unidentified in our queue. I'd ask that individual at this time to please press *9 if they are interested in speaking to this item. Seeing no hands raised, there is no public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and head over to closed session. Thank you.
Are we supposed to be on a different link for this? Oh, no. Okay.
Yes, it would have been sent directly from County Council, from Paula Forbes.
Thank you. I'll go there.
Okay, I was looking for it too. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we should leave this one, right?
You can either leave or you can press, you should be able to join in a separate window.
Okay, I'll try.
Or
that.
you can go ahead and leave this one and just rejoin. That's fine.
Okie dokie, thank you.
You're welcome. It would be best for all members to leave this meeting. Otherwise, we'll be able to hear you
sorry
through
about that.
closed session.
Oh,
No
sorry about
worries.
that.
We are back from our closed session. Madam Council, do we have quorum, right? Just want to double check everybody's.
Yes.
Okay, everybody's on. All right, well, Council, please let everyone know if there's something to report back.
Yes, Madam Chair, Chair Vargas, with a vote of 10 members present and voting aye, Member Whitburn not being present, the board approved County Council to refrain from seeking appellate review of the preliminary injunction order issued on April 27th, 2021 in the case of Robertson's Ready Mix versus the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District.
Thank you, Madam Council. I want to just say thank you to everyone. I believe this concludes the business for today. I want to remind everyone that we are officially switching to our monthly meetings. Our next meeting of the APCD board will be on Friday, July 16th at 1:30 p.m. And I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you. Thank you for all your work. Have a wonderful day.